Hi everyone, I'm back with chapters 13 and 14 of Oranges in No Man's Land. As we read last chapter, Aisha has managed to get the medicine off Dr. Leia, and Dr. Leia has very kindly called a favour with her friend Abu Bashir, and he has turned up with the UN ambulance ready to take her back over the Green Line. So, it's looking pretty good for Aisha. Let's hope nothing gets in her way. Right, here's chapter 13. I had expected to ride in the front seat of the ambulance beside Abu Bashir, but instead he opened the back and told me to hop in. Then he took a bandage out of a box and tied it round my head. Lie down on the bed, he said. When we get to a checkpoint, you'll have to pretend you're wounded, and taking you to see a specialist who lives on the other side, okay? And don't open your mouth. That accent of yours would give you away to anyone. I nodded and eased the bandage a bit, where it was too tight over my eyes. This was going to be dangerous, I knew. My skin was prickling with fright again. We set off. The ambulance windows were darkened, so I knew no one could see me unless they leaned right inside Abu Bashir's window. I sat up and looked out through the black glass. Something was different. For a moment, I couldn't work out what it was. Then I realised everything was strangely quiet. There wasn't a soul anywhere. Abu Bashir was cursing under his breath. This is bad, bad, I heard him say. I felt shy of Abu Bashir, but I plucked up courage and said, What's bad, Uncle? The battle, it's going to start. He was hunched over the steering wheel. The shooting's going to begin any minute now. Hang on, Habibti, we'll have to make a dash for it. The ambulance leapt forward with a sudden thrust of speed. I was thrown back, but I clung onto the straps hanging over the bed. We were racing furiously down the street. I couldn't believe my eyes. A couple of hours earlier, the street had been crowded with people. Now there was nobody. No one at all. The market stalls were still there, left just as they had been, the goods displayed, open and unguarded. The stall holders must have sensed what was about to happen and had fled. Their stuff was safe from thieves, though. No one would dare creep out to rescue it now that the snipers were in position on the upper floors of the buildings. And it had all happened only minutes ago. I could tell, because in their hurry to get away, someone had knocked over a fruit stall. It was the very one whose owner's son had shown me the way to Dr. Leia's house. His oranges were still rolling down the street, making a bright stripe of moving colour on the black tarmac. I was used to danger. I'd heard countless bombs exploding, and I'd often gone to sleep to the sound of gunfire. But nothing had ever frightened me as much as that wild dash along the empty street. The world seemed to stand still, holding its breath, waiting for the men of death to open fire. And they did. Just as we reached the end of the street and plunged through one of the narrow openings into a ruined side alley, the first rattle of machine gun fire burst out behind us, and the hateful crump of an exploding mortar bomb echoed from building to building. Chapter 14. I'll never forget that mad ride across the Green Line. As the UN ambulance bounced over ruts and rubble, I had to cling on to whatever I could reach, like a monkey in a storm-tossed tree. The shooting and explosions seemed to go on forever, but in fact we left the battle behind us very quickly and plunged back into no man's land that morning. The ruined streets were as eerily deserted as they had been that morning, but then the distance I'd run had seemed endless, but in the ambulance we covered it in minutes. We reached the hostile checkpoint, the place I'd been dreading most, all too soon. My heart was pounding as Abu Bashir slammed on the brakes and let down his window. I'd already lain down on the bed, covered myself with a blanket that had been folded onto the end of it, and turned my face to the side, hoping that if the militiamen looked in, they wouldn't recognise me. I couldn't hear their questions, only Abu Bashir's replies. Little girl, head injuries. Yes, I know. Crazy to take her across, but there's some expert over their side. Only person. Who? Dr. Leia. Yes, that's right. You know her. She's a true saint, that woman. I sensed him leaning further out of the window. Wait a minute. Aren't you Ramsey's little brother? Hey, nice to see you. The fighting? It's north of the Burj. We only just got through. Thanks, boys. Look out for me. I'll drop the patient off and be back as quickly as I can. The window hissed up again. The ambulance moved off. We were through. I looked at the back of Abu Bashir's head. He knows those bad men, I thought. They're his friends. I was worried now. What if Abu Bashir wasn't kind after all? But he's got a daughter, I thought. He can't be all bad. I took a deep breath. Please, Uncle, how old's your little girl? Lamis? She's 10. Must be around the same age as you, her beauty. One day, God willing, you might be friends when all this is over. So he is nice after all? It was too confusing. I didn't know what to think anymore. We turned a corner. In the distance I could see the next checkpoint, but this was the one I knew well, where the kind militiamen, the ones on our side, had played with Ahmed. "We've made it!" I burst out happily. "Look! They'll let us through all right. I know them. I'm nearly home. We're safe now." But the ambulance had slowed right down to a halt. "You may be safe," Abu Bashir said, running a hand across his bald head. "I'm not so sure about me. Did you say you knew these guys?" "Yes, they're nice. They offered to get some milk for my little brother." "Did they now? And your home? It's not far from here." "Only a little way. You have to turn right at the traffic lights, only they're not working now, and on past the shoe shop on the corner. I'll show you." "I'd rather you didn't, Habibti. As a matter of fact, I'd rather not go any further. If I let you out here, will you be all right on your own? You're sure you know the way?" He sounded worried. "You don't need to be scared of them, Uncle," I said. "Honestly, they're really kind." But he was already turning the ambulance round. "Kind to you, maybe. Look, I'll wait here and watch to see that you get through all right. Can you manage that door alone?" "Good. Got the medicines?" He was leaning out of the driver's window. He put out a hand and pinched my cheek. "You're a good girl, Aisha. A great little girl. I'll tell Lamis all about you, and say hello to your granny for me. I hope she gets better."